reasons behind that, okay? So I'm admitting a few more people, and then what we'll do is, Jane, do you want to do introductions?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay, great. We'll give you just like one more minute and then. Why don't you go ahead, Jane?
Oh. All right, good morning, everybody. Looks like we might get a little snow today. That would be nice. The good and the bad of a Zoom meeting is we don't have to bundle up and get out and drive through traffic and do different kind of things and put more carbon floating around. But the sad part of it is we can't share a cup of coffee and a bagel together, which we've always done over the years. So it's been almost a year now that we're meeting on Zoom. So hang in there and hopefully we'll all be together and meeting in different neighborhoods as we have in the past. So welcome 2021. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Tim Sandoz. I had the good fortune of working with him in the early 1990s when he was on Denver City Council, and he had a program that he started called Year One, which is the youth program. And he brought me on his staff to work with him and Gloria Leyba at that time to help with that project. But the thing that was really overwhelming at that time is that DIA was under construction and all the bids were coming in for all the people that were going to be setting up business in DIA. And it was a very, very busy time. And I was always really impressed at how well Tim was able to talk to people from all over with all kind of different issues and managed to settle the waters. So I'm really happy to know that he is the person that's going to be reaching out for DOTI to neighborhoods and businesses and coordinating communications and projects so that everybody feels like their concerns have been addressed. And I don't know anybody that could do a better job of that than Tim. So I'm happy to be a part of this morning and welcome, Tim. You're muted still. Bottom left.
How about now?
Good.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sorry I missed that. I've got my screen up and haven't seen that. But Jane, thank you very much. You're very kind. Jane was one of the, and has been one of the best friends that I've had throughout my professional career in working because of the focus on how we could best serve people. And when I was on the city council, that was my focus. Let me start with a little bit of background for those of you who don't know me. Myself and my family have been very involved in Denver politics for decades. My father was the first Latino elected to the Denver City Council, Council District 3. And I cut my teeth working on the Mayor's Commission on Youth when I was 13 years old, and we've been involved ever since then. I had the opportunity to serve on Federico Peña's cabinet that directly followed my co-chairing Citizens for Denver's Future. It was the 1989 bond election for $242 million, where we expanded streets, bridges, parks. It was the largest bond election of its time in the city. Prior to that, the largest bond election was $17 million. And the focus and what made that successful were the 92 people from across the city who went to work on the different questions and really focused on what was gonna happen for the greater good of the entire community, not just their neighborhoods, but across the entire city. And so that was a great learning experience for me. As Jane pointed out, I was elected to the Denver City Council in a large position when Federico Peña chose not to run again. And I took a stab at running for Congress. Diana DeGette and I were the last two people standing out of 11-person field when Pat Schroeder stepped down. And of course, Diana won that election. I lost by approximately 4 votes per precinct. It was very close. But that was a great experience for me. I then moved into the private sector, working predominantly in housing and banking finance. I was executive vice president for Wells Fargo's mortgage division. I had 18,000 salespeople across the country. And my segment was low to moderate income housing, first-time home buyer, and all affordable lending that we did. My tenure, when I started, we were the 4th largest lender in the country for those segments. When I left, we were the #1 lender in the country in those segments. Continues to be that way. In the last few years, I was asked by Mayor Hancock to join his administration with specifically first the North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative, so we could build a model on how you serve a community, not just based on individual projects, which was the city's methodology. You would take something like Central 70 or Washington Street, work that project. The focus with the NDCC is to make sure that we not only address that project, but every other project that would interconnect with it and that would impact the entire community, because communities don't experience projects one project at a time. They experience them from everything happening at the same time. We did that, built out very well. And so the decision was made to expand that across the city with the development of the office that I now run, which is called the Office of Community and Business Engagement within the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. So we're going to talk about today how we have restructured within DOTI so that we can provide a much better level of community engagement, certainly in the COVID environment. We find ourselves, as Jane had mentioned, not being able to do community engagement with physical meetings, but rather converting to virtual meetings. And so we've learned very quickly some different models and platforms that we can use so we can be much more efficient and actually gain more participation. One of the things that we have learned is that we actually are getting far more participation in the number of people that participate in virtual meetings than we ever did in community meetings. Now that's a broad general statement. Some communities might be different, but for the most part, we've been able to get even upward of
Tim, you muted yourself. Tim?
Tim, you're muted, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I just got a message said the host muted me. So, and I guess I'm a host, so it could have been me. I apologize. But I was saying that we've got so much more participation in the virtual meetings than we ever thought we could. And so now we're learning better ways to use the virtual platforms so that we can continue through with those as COVID expands. I'm also mayoral appointee, as I said, appointed by Mayor Hancock. One of the things that we're working on are the inoculations and vaccinations. Suffice it to say, we don't think we will have everybody in the city inoculated until about third quarter. So we're likely to be using virtual platforms up until that time. And hopefully we'll be able to get back to physical meetings sooner. So those are some of the things that I hope to talk about. I'm going to ask for the opportunity to go through the deck because we've got a pretty full presentation, and then ask if we can hold questions to the end So if you would be so kind as to write them down, and we'll get back to everything that you want to ask. Going to what we're going to go through. So again, I've already touched on the current landscape with COVID-19. The Office of Community and Business Engagement is a new office. So I want to go through what our role is, our mission, vision, and guiding principles, the goals that we've set for ourselves, and how we intend to work with all of the neighborhood organizations, community-based organizations, community service organizations, INC, and the like. And so as I go through how we work today, one of the things that I really want your help with is to jot down as I go through the presentation what you think will work, what is not working, and what are the things that we need to do to better communicate with you as a neighborhood organization and to better serve you with the things that we're doing. We are restructuring how we communicate and how we engage the community. So I want all the input that you can give me so we can make course adjustments and do a better job for the people we serve, which are you. We'll talk about different levels of engagement that we have in different projects and how we choose those levels of engagement. The metrics and key performance indicators that will can you hear me again? Dadgummit.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I keep on getting the message that I'm being muted. I'm not touching anything, but I think
That's my fault. I'm trying to let people in, and occasionally I run across you, and just as I'm admitting them, I hit your mute. So I
Okay.
apologize.
Nah, no worries. Something that we're finding in this environment, and this goes back, I didn't mention that I was executive vice president of Comcast for a while. The networks that Comcast, others have, were not built to accommodate everybody working from home and being at home. So a lot of times you'll get kicked off your network. That's why. It's not ready to have so many people on it. And so on occasion we get kicked off, and that's why that happens. And just as an FYI. After we go through how we're going to measure, then we're going to talk about our look ahead. What we hope to do is come back to this group on a quarterly basis. Identify what we're going to be working on across the city for the next 3 to 6 months so that we're ahead of schedule for how we work, rather than what has been some of our practice, which is to wait until we've got a 60% design and come to the community, because that's far too late to gain your thoughts, your input, and make adjustments based on what you're looking for in the projects we're doing. So we're changing that process on its entirety, and we'll go through that and talk about that. So I'll go through projects that we're looking at through 2021 in the first 6 months. The next process is a council district review. We'll be holding monthly district reviews in concert with the district council reps for the district to show you the projects that we're working on, mapping those things. We'll talk about that. And then we'll go from there to how we want to serve community-based organizations, RNOs, again, community-based organizations and service organizations. A lot of times, if I'm sitting in your chair, it's good to know what's happening on a citywide basis, but I represent a neighborhood. What I really want to know is not so much what's happening across the city, but what's happening across the street. And so we want to be very intentional about how we set up opportunities to communicate those things with neighborhoods. And so I've just gone through this slide. Office of Community and Business Engagement was created to strengthen really Dottie's brand. remember that last year we converted from Public Works to Dottie. So one of my team's responsibilities is to help the community understand who Dottie is, what the brand is, what we do. It is first and foremost to build our trusted community relationships. Frankly, we've not done a good job of that, or as good a job as we need to, in large part because I don't think it was anybody's conscious effort not to. We have 4 stages in the process. It is planning, then design, then construction, then delivery. And many times they erred on the side of waiting until we really understood what we were going to do to come to the communities, because they didn't want to waste anybody's time going through the machinations of the changes that we make. But that's a very important exercise with community. That's where community says, this is what we need. This is, don't forget to add this. And so that's why we're changing that and what our process is going to be. We really want to promote transparency from the very beginning of that 4-stage process and engage the community so that we really capture needs appropriately. So our first stage is informing. Again, that's just to let you know this is coming. Then in that inform, we go to a pre-planning and planning stages. Okay, now is our chance to think about what we want to include, what we should change, what we should add, what we shouldn't do. And so we are going to be engaging the community early enough in those stages to get your valued input and to make changes while we're going through the planning. A lot of that will be education. And I say education because I get educated on what we do. By example, I knew from my council days how important drainage was. I really didn't understand how much work we had to do on drainage, flood control for every project at the front end before we started talking about what we could design. And so in GES, by example, we went through a whole process on flood control and drainage where members of the community were more informed than we were, frankly, in some instances. But by working together, we could help everybody understand where we're at. That created a level playing field so that everyone in the community could participate at the same level, rather than having, a couple subject matter experts always drove everything, but others couldn't participate because they simply weren't aware of some of these things. Our role is to consult, again, with the community, with our service providers, and with our contractors, collaborate with everyone on what we're going to do, and then share our leadership in making decisions about what we need to do when it's early enough to impact the design so that we can move forward. So those are the steps that we're going to take. Our vision, really our North Star, is for residents, businesses, elected officials, and employees of the city to believe Dottie's engaged and involved them each in every step of the process for programs affecting your communities. And again, we'll inform, consult, involve, collaborate, partner with efficient and replicable community and business engagement processes. That is our primary mission. And later, when we get into the Q&A, again, I'm going to ask for your help with, once you see what we're doing, is this going to do it, or are we missing something? What are we missing? So we can make sure that we do this right. We've got a whole set of guiding principles that's fairly detailed, and we'll make those available as requested. And then we really support our one build priorities. We have a one build, one water, one paving, one parks. It's so that we're collectively on the same page and that we're not working with different approaches to the work that we do. But again, the key is collaborating, connecting to strong community and business engagement strategies to do this. So our goals: deliver results, establish consistency, promote equity in what we invest in and where we're working, and to build trust with our communities for the work that we're doing for you. Our goals: we are developing a community engagement guide that all of our departments will follow within Dottie. It includes a virtual meeting guide. Which virtual meeting platforms do we use when? It has our standard surveys, the levels of engagement, which we're going to go through here in a minute, because every project doesn't have the same level of engagement. We will do about 25,000 different projects in Dottie this year. Many of those we do on a work order and complete a scope of work that is part of a much larger transformational project. So we'll focus on those transformational projects, but the level of engagement for something that's just a smaller piece will be different than what we look at for how we plan the entire workflow. We'll show you that here in a minute. Our marketing and branding strategy, the kind of templates that we use so that we've got consistency across the city, our messaging guidelines, and then our community advisory groups, such as the National Western Community Advisory Group or the Northeast Denver Advisory Group that's being put together right now, along with consultants, both ourselves and consultations that we will do. Promoting equity is key for us. It's part of the alignment to the mayor's goals. And so we are looking at the inverted L and how we invest to catch up for many, many years of neglect that has happened in those areas. So we've got interdepartment equity planning. That is, we come together with parks and DIDO and health so that we've got a collective approach similar to what we did with NDCC in the work that we're doing in those equity areas. 444 and youth engagement. 444 is a program that we've begun. We'd love to come and give you more detail on that reaches out to junior high school kids through college and then into the workforce. One of the things that we're finding are children of color, women generally don't have access into engineering fields, so we lack the ability to hire people in those areas. What's more, we lose the opportunity to move women and people of color into the primary supervisory roles in those. So what 444 and our youth engagement does is starts kids in STEM, other educational programs at the elementary level so that they can understand the options and where they can go. Safe Routes to Schools programs, where we work with the schools on the safest routes for kids to take to avoid accidents. It's part of our Vision Zero program. TSS is Teen Safe Streets. That's targeted more towards teenagers. Includes everything from safe car seats to automobile driving and training. BASE is the booster and seatbelt engagement program tied to TSS. And then CALC is our Community Active Living Coalition program that we've been working with schools and communities on, particularly in our equity areas. Some good news I'll share with you is just yesterday, we were recommended by CDOT and the Colorado Department of Public Health to extend our CALC grants for 2 more years so that we can do more of this work on an ongoing basis. And we just were made aware of that yesterday. Our building trust, we've got a NACTO grant, which is a National Association of Community Transportation Organizations. We got a grant from them to expand patio permits to fund tents, heating units, so that businesses, and in particular restaurants, were able to continue to stay open as we went through the orange and red phases of the COVID plan. We were able to grant just under $1 million to do that work with reimbursement grants to businesses so that we could help them, because they just didn't have the money to do those things. And we're extending that in 2021 as well. I talked about all of our specialty initiatives in the last slide. We also have a series of micro grants and community-led small projects, art mural projects, again, different projects tied to Vision Zero and our community outreach to help neighborhoods and support them in educating residents in the neighborhood about safety projects and what's happening in their areas. And that would be for Vision Zero, education, and other encouragement initiatives that we've got. And then we're really focused on sustaining relationships within city projects and then with external projects for community-based organizations serving the community. So that is another one of our goals. And then finally, delivering results. We say collaboration with PDA. PDA is our planning, design, and administration group that's responsible for the planning, design, construction, and delivery of infrastructure and, excuse me, that's infrastructure, both street and then standing facilities. Examples would be 16th Street, 39th Avenue Greenway, Washington Street, the far northeast next step study about where we're going with those. And that includes working directly with communities early enough to get the community's input, needs, wants, desires into the projects before we get to the design stage. We'll be collaborating with our operations teams, things like bike paving or street pavement. I'll show you more about those in a minute. Our 311 case management. We have tremendously increased our response times for 311 requests. One of the things we discovered is we're getting 311 requests. We do work orders. We get the job done. We did not have a good methodology for coming back to the community and saying this was completed. And so that'll be one of the things that we're doing there. And then we're going to be doing some real specific work in 311 on those long-term projects that take a lot longer to respond to. Those that are 90 days or older, an intensive work project to make sure that those are completed. Parking management will fall into that. Our commerce in the right-of-way, that includes taking meters and bagging them so that restaurants and businesses can have Uber or other pickup and delivery, or pickup and delivery for residents who are coming that don't want to enter the businesses. Those would be some examples of commerce in the right-of-way. And then collaborations with utilities. The city has lost about $250 million as a result of COVID, $250 million loss in our revenues. That means that that has to come out of the budget someplace. And so how do we take that out of the budget and still have the ability to serve the community? Large item pickup of trash and things would be an example where we've had to reduce the frequency that we can do large item pickups so that we could reduce our budget. And that'll include engagement in wastewater, other things that we do with the utilities group. So again, 3 groups within DOTI. PDA, or planning, design, and administration, operations, and utilities. This is a slide that I want to pay particular attention to. And I just thought, is this bigger? Can you see this better? Can you all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So let me go through this. So here is our new model for communicating with you as RNOs, community-based organizations, INC, and others. And you'll see that level of engagement goes back to what we had talked about before: inform, educate, consult, collaborate, and then shared leadership in our decision-making. This is first to provide the community with sufficient notice prior to implementation. I've talked about a bit about that already, and that's to get out there early enough so that when we get information, it's something that we can apply. The outcome is for the community to be prepared and understand what we're doing, the solution that we're planning to move forward, why we're planning that, and then if we can make adjustments, what we'll need to do in order to make those course adjustments. Our milestone is to start pre-implementation and then go through every stage of the process with the community so that you're always engaged in each segment, in the planning, in the design, in the construction, and then ultimate delivery of those services. The second level of engagement is education. And again, that's informing about the project program history, emphasizing why the current solution's in place and what we're thinking, why we're thinking it. We want to do that early enough so you understand that many of these projects have been multiple years in the making. And so they're building on information that we had got from the community, requests that we had. And so here's our initial thinking. Now, that doesn't mean that can't be changed at this stage. It's just to help the community understand what our past engagement efforts were, what we're thinking about for current solutions, and then create an opportunity for you to provide feedback to improve those solutions for delivery. And the design team is part of the team that's engaged in that. Confirming habits and needs of residents as it relates to previous data. I'm thinking right now about Tejon Street and the bike paving plan that we're looking at there. Candidly, a certain amount of that work is as much as 10 years old, and the Tejon Street has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Single family homes have turned to multifamily dwellings, and they depend on that street parking for those units. The original plans 10 or more years ago didn't contemplate that. So now we're looking at a different model of what we can do to provide that service. 70% of the entire city wants us to do more bike paving, more bike paths, bus stops, other things. We've had about 144% increase in our residential population over the last 10 years. We can't make the streets any wider unless we take away the businesses and residents that are there. So we've got to think about different ways to transport and move people through the community with multimodal uses. We want to talk to you and the communities in your particular neighborhoods about how we do that. Again, we've got strong support for doing it. And everybody always likes it until it's in front of your house. And then of course, well, we got to look at these differently. So we need some help about how we think through those and what we do. Collaboration, partnering with the community to evaluate our needs, wants, and desires and our priorities. And then finally, share our leadership to discover the solutions alongside the community based on available funding and data. That based on available funding and data really got important March of last year when COVID hit and we started to lose revenue at the levels that we are. And so it's very important for us to be able to make those considerations with our community-led or co-led implementation of the solutions as we drive the decision-making process for our planning, implementation, and construction stages. So these are the tools, what our goals are, the outcomes, and the levels of engagement, how we will use them to work with the community going forward. Looking ahead, we are working closely in 2021, both internally, and then we want to introduce externally the plans that Dottie has for One Vision, or One Plan, One Build, One Pave, One Water programs. Again, we've traditionally done these individually. We need the whole city to understand why we're managing our water and drainage the way we are, because what we do on the west side with water coming off of the mountain has direct impacts of what we're doing in Park Hill, City Park, and on the east side of the city. So how that all ties together, those are things that we really need to be able to describe and help folks to understand. It gives you a better idea then where we need to go for your particular community as we go through each of these plans. 2021, we've got some specific focus. We've got Denver University and a Dottie survey collaboration for Santa Fe Streetscape and Federal Boulevard. Those are two of the biggest state projects that are coming up, because those are state highways, but they are within our communities. And so we're coordinating the surveys that we're doing, what we do, how we do them, how we tie everything together as we go through planning and design for those projects. Washington Street, the base car, the community newsletters on how we're serving youth in the community. Those are all parts of the workflow that we're doing. We've got expansion into 3 new schools that we're going to be doing for our transportation service programs that we'll be introducing. Safety programs, safe routes to schools, school drop-off zone planning as we do new paving. Salesforce integration is more an internal tool that we use for tracking our communications. It allows us to track every community meeting we did, communications that we have with individuals in the community, so we don't lose the input and information that we get from the community. We're building new marketing communication strategies. And then last but not least is the Dottie Advisory Council. You'll recall that in November, Councilwoman Ortega sponsored legislation to create an advisory council for Dottie. We're standing that up. Each council member has appointees to that council, as well as the mayor. We're working right now on the process for people to apply for and be appointed to the council. It's our intention to start the first meetings in March of this year, March, April. So that'll be happening at the end of first quarter and into second quarter. A couple other quick touches. Again, what I call the 50,000 foot view. Over the next 12 years, we'll be spending more than $2 billion for safer and easier access to the streets, processes for multimodal access for buses, bikes, and others, so that we can make it easier for people to get from home to work to school to do the things that they do in the community. The investments, 30% of that go to commuter biking, walking, or transit. 80%, or we anticipate in the 12 years, an 80% reduction of emissions by 2050 in doing this, so we can address some of our clean air goals. And we hope to be at 0 traffic deaths by 2030. We did see a reduction in traffic deaths this year. It's not to the level that we wish that we were, but we are making an impact in those areas. The bike network, 15% of our trips, again, will through 2030 are going to go towards walking, biking. The other percentage will be for bus transportation. We will have completed 125 miles of bike facilities by the end of 2023. And we had quite an increase in 2020 on that. We plan more work on 2021. Fortunately, these things are already funded, so COVID is not going to impact our ability to deliver on those projects. And the goal, ultimate goal, is that all of Denver will be within a quarter mile of a high comfort bike facility so that they can use bicycles as a transportation methodology. Let me not spend too much time on this. How we funded the bikeways is 18 million in the general obligation bond, capital improvement projects of 15.4 million that take us through 2021. And thus far, we have completed 54.2 miles of paving under the obligation bonds and 75 miles under our CIP. So again, increasing by a minimum of 10 miles per year in the work is where our goals are. I'm just going to quickly show you the maps for our street maintenance and paving. I don't know how well you can see these. I sure can't. So there's a legend that tells you what colors mean what. And frankly, I can't see them, so I can't tell you what those are. But it'll give you an idea of where we're going to be paving with projects in 2021, both for road paving and then bike paving. And you'll see colored lines on the bike paving. Those will be projects that we will be building out in 2021. Because we only got a second to look at this, we will send the deck so that this can be shared with everyone. But if I'm, for instance, representing a neighborhood organization in West Washington Park, you can see that 51st and 45th are segments that we'll be doing. And you may want to ask us to come in and do a presentation to your organization on those specific projects so you understand our timelines based on the PERT charts for planning, design, and build for those projects. We definitely want you to be informed, and we want to do it with enough time for you to comment on those and understand where we're at. This is a PERT chart that we use for Washington Street as an example. And it has the different phases. We're going through reevaluation of the pre-planning in Washington in 2021. We will then move into design in 2022. Right-of-way access will occur based on what the design concepts are, and we'll do right-of-way access between 2023 and 2024. That has been adjusted again based on budget due to COVID. And then our construction will be from 2025 on. As I said before, what we want to do is plan on projects that surround it so that we can do additional work and do it all in partnership or, in planning and design for all the projects simultaneously. So other projects there are Heron Pond, which is Carpio Sanguinetti Park, 51st Avenue Bridge, 51st Avenue, 48th Avenue, the levee, all those things that impact Washington Street and surrounding projects. And those are the current PERT charts for what we're doing there. Now, we will be bringing these to you when we do the city council quarterly reviews in each district. And we will have maps like this one. This actually is for District 11, but it'll show you all of the projects that we're working on in 2021 and what are going to happen in your neighborhood. It'll give you the opportunity to say, okay, I'm from Montbello, or I'm in Green Valley Ranch. Let me take a look specifically at the projects where they're going to be. Green, for instance, in Green Valley Ranch's design. So we're doing design work. We want to be engaged in that with our RNO. So we will make a request of OCBE to bring the subject matter experts in to help us to learn what they're doing and for us to provide the input on the design and things that we've got there. So we've got multimodal projects, Vision Zero, our bike projects, signal projects, street paving, all those will be listed and shown in the quarterly reviews with the council districts. And then along with that, we will show the PERT charts for each project. So you know the timing of what these are going to be. And then we'll show you this project phasing, which helps you to understand what's been funded, what's not funded yet. When are we doing construction or design or planning? And these projects have been moving along around in Globeville, around Washington Street for 3 years now. So we've been working with the community on those to understand what's there. All right, I took more time than I had intended for the presentation, but now I'd really like to open it up to discussion. Questions that you have around these things. Next would be, what do you want us to be able to talk about or present to you in our future meetings? Next month, by example, I know that the Transportation Committee is going to have another review on our T-Rex programs with Jay Decker, and that's already scheduled. What do you want us to come and talk to you more about? That's either citywide or some of these major projects by committee or to this particular group so that everybody sees what we're doing, so we're all understanding where we're going as a city. Those are things I would like to hear from you about what you would like to see. I don't want to be the only one presenting. The purpose of these is to bring the subject matter experts, including city attorney's office and all the teams that are working on these, so that we got all the experts, including the community-based organizations that we work with, so that we can have a good discussion with the people who are best prepared to address questions and address your needs. So I'd like to understand what it is that you would like us to be coming to you with so we can start to plan those things. And then anything else that might be on your mind that will be important for us to put onto our future presentations for you. So let me stop there. Loretta, how would you like to handle the Q&A?
We'll take questions, and I want to go to some of the comments and I want to make sure that we get to some of those comments. And we have a lot of people who are maybe new to INC and not delegates, but we welcome you here and we want to hear from you. And the one thing is, we've had a lot of comments in the chat, and I don't think, Tim, that you saw those, but
no, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay, and we have a lot of participants. We have 68 participants, so we want to make sure people are heard. But I want to go through some of these because I think you need to know that some people have been concerned about the sweeps, and that's something that's come up. And there's concerns. I mean, we haven't had, and we're on an unseasonably warm year. But we haven't had the bitter cold that we typically have in the dry January that we typically have. But people are talking about concerns about the unhoused and, and issues about the sweeps. So that has come up in the chat, and we want to make sure that the voices are being heard. So there are people talking about that. And so I think that's something that you might want to address. Some of those things is, attached to that also are when people are swept, their possessions are taken. They can't get services. Those are things that people are talking about, they're concerned about. The police destroy their property, and So those are things that people are talking about, is how do you do this humanely? I mean, if you're, and the other issue, I know that's not all your issue, but is housing issues and directing people to services and making sure they receive services if that's, what they need. So those are some of the questions that have come up. And so I wanted just to give you an opportunity to respond. And I think we can get back to some more questions after that. But I kind of did people are concerned about the sweeps and they don't want them to continue. I know, there's other people on this who are saying we want to make sure that we have effective services for people and we have places for people that they can stay. So can we address that?
Sure, I'll address that right now. So what we would really like to do, what I'd like to do in instances like this, again, there are so many areas of expertise that are being worked on with both the city and with partners. I would like to set up a separate presentation with those subject matter experts specific for these questions. The services, health, housing, food, safely storing equipment, additional locations that we're setting up for housing the unhoused and those people that are experiencing homelessness. I am not by any means the subject matter expert who could address those, but I can make sure that we've got them here. And we want to do that now. Offhand, I know that there have been 3 more locations that we've opened across the city for additional temporary housing opportunities right now. I'm in process of working on a grant with FEMA for $2.6 million to expand 3 recreation centers that are our primary centers for emergency shelter in really bad inclement weather, the bad snowstorms. And as you said, Loretta, we've been very fortunate not to have the kind of winters that we know that we can experience. But by this grant and additional money that the city will add to the grant, we can add an additional 230 beds make available for people during emergency situations. And that is in the COVID environment. We can do more beds than that. COVID, with the required spacing, has chipped into the amount of beds that we could make available. And so this will allow us to expand that. Of course, as we're able to get out of COVID, we'll be able to go back to a bed count that is much, much higher. Those, I know only enough to be dangerous on the possessions that are being taken, steps that we're doing to protect people's possessions so that they're not losing them when we do street cleanups. And in the grant that I just talked about, we're also ensuring how we provide additional services for people, such as healthcare services, workforce development, a whole host of services that we can make available to people during those stages. We have, as many of you are aware, a lawsuit that's really starting on Monday on these issues. So I know that there's some limitations on what we can talk about right at this moment, but I definitely want to do a separate presentation with the subject matter experts on all of these things. And we'll do that at your recommendation in terms of time frame, those things. Loretta, I think you're...
Yes, I am muted. We're keeping the comments and we're making sure that you'll get those because I think that's very important. And I know there's a lot of people who are saying, you know, stop the sweep, so that they've joined us today. And I want to get that out to you, that they're saying stop the sweeps. I mean, I know that there's other people who are saying, is there lockers that people could have? Is there other things? So So, and I want to make sure that we get these comments to you and whoever's appropriate, and let us know if we can get them to you. I mean, there's another comment that was there's 28,000 temporary permits for restaurants. And for traumatic sweeps there, people are not allowed to do that. So that it sounds like there's this disparate, a business can have this space, but other people can't have this place. So residents can't have it. So, and so I think that's part of it. And I'm sorry, there's so many comments, and we're trying not to silence people. That's not the point. The point is we're trying to make sure that we get everybody heard. And I know I'm trying to just kind of focus on a lot of the comments. And so just want to make sure that people have this. They had a couple of questions. The other thing is you're talking about building a brand and trying to, develop a relationship with community. And these are people in our community who are saying they don't have any building relationship because they're being swept. And so that's one comment to say, how are you building relationship with people when you're moving them and they, and they're not able to access services and they're not able to keep their possessions. And so the question is, how do you, and maybe this is for a question for later too, but I think now that's one thing I want you to hear is that's one of the things that that the question was, is how do you build a community relationship with both people who are unhoused and people who do have housing, and we know that with the moratorium on evictions, that there's going to be a lot more people who will be out without housing. There's a lot of temporary people who live with friends or family, and that can't be long-term. So there's also a lot of people who have, their mortgages coming up. So, all of our community, we're all concerned about these issues, right? I think we are on different levels.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So I would like to get all of those, and my commitment is to get you responses to every question that you got and what our 2021 work plans are for each of the questions that you've got. And again, I'll go to the subject matter experts and those that we can move forward with. And I agree, everybody's got these. My three daughters are all in service industries, have all been working in restaurants. They've all been out of work. We're blessed that we've got enough resource to cover their rent, carry them. Everybody doesn't have that. And so what do we do for those individuals that don't? Because that burden's getting heavy on every family or friends or others. We've taken in family members ourselves because they're unable to work, had COVID. Two of my three daughters have had COVID. So a lot of different things that we need to make sure that we're addressing, but that we can help people with. And I owe you answers to all of those. The city owes you answers to those. So if, again, you've got those in the chat, we can just copy and print those. I will get back to the group with our answers for those. I still want to do, a bigger session where, we're talking about just these issues. It always is difficult to, with so many things that we're doing, to have enough time to go into a deep dive in everything. This is a critical issue, and it is to you, so let's do a deep dive. Loretta, I think you're muted again.
I mute myself. So the other question is, when will Dottie board meetings begin, and how can we engage in public comment? So I think that would be helpful also to know. Okay.
We are working on the plan with the mayor's office right now. And I think you're talking about the Dottie Advisory Board. Next month, we will be coming out with the process for how people can apply to be members of the advisory board, how they can work with their council districts for appointments, as well as with both city council and mayoral appointees. It's our intention to have that done through February, then announce the processes for the meetings, how the community can be engaged with the advisory board. And as I said, start our first meeting sometime mid-March. We don't want to be any longer than March, April, but depending on the process for people who are applying and who want to be there, we want to make sure that those considerations are available for everyone.
All right. I mean, I think I'm going to take a few questions, and it's hard for me to see everyone. So, you know, if you have a hand up, Zoe, go ahead. And I think if you can unmute yourself, and I think you had a question, and then maybe we might go to Ian, and I don't know if anybody else, raise your hands. So go ahead.
Hi. Well, the first thing I want to say is, like, I am here as a delegate. I am here as a representative of Mayfair Neighbors. So I can't make this too personal, and I have to stay diplomatic, which is hard because this is an issue near and dear to my heart. But I do have to put myself in here personally, because I do hear this this talk of like, oh, well, we're lucky, we're blessed. And I'm one of those people staying with friends that can't do that forever. And, you know, I'm personally looking at my own future, and will I be living in a tent on the street, and wondering, you know, and I'm scared. And I've been to a number of these traumatic displacements, and watched the police throw away people's things, and talk to the people afterwards, and it is just horrible. And it's unspeakable. It's an unspeakable horror in our city. And I don't know the exact numbers, but it's costing our taxpayers a lot of money. And I guess, you know, my main question for Dottie is, like, what do they see as their role in this? And why are they ordering? Because I've heard their reasoning before, but, you know, I hear people asking Dottie for housing solutions, and I'm very confused about what Dottie does, to be honest. I don't think that they're responsible for housing, but they are responsible for deciding whether or not these traumatic displacements continue. And I want to know what goes into that decision, and why they're continuing to make that decision.
Okay, great. First off, I'm sorry for your situation. As I said, there are a lot of people that I can't help. I would like to, and you're one of them. And I'm sorry that we don't have a better answer for you right now. And I don't have the answers for all of those, because to your point, Dottie is responsible for 3 areas: our planning, design, and construction for projects. Operations side is where we do street cleanups, we do street cleaning, we do trash pickup, we do those things. Those are direct services. So while we're focused on the things that we do there, like you said, housing is really host and some other folks. So Dottie will be involved in cleanups, because that's part of what our current focus of work is. I really need somebody better informed than myself to answer how the decisions are made, where they're happening. A good place to learn that is going to be Monday night at City Council. The Chief Payson is doing a presentation to council, a response to the concerns about the cleanups, about the police's actions during cleanups, those things. And again, I rather bring you the subject matter experts who will give you the right answers than me try to give you something just shooting from the hip that would not be correct. But that's why I'd like to do that separate kind of presentation, because you and others, there's clearly a hot button issue we want to do. Monday night, you have both the opportunity to speak to, ask questions, and hear the police department where, their actions and what they're doing during these, you had just stated, can be addressed. Thank you. And can I get your name? It says Dizo Murak.
That's the Steeper delegate. My name is Zomarock.
Oh, Zomarak. I'm sorry. Yeah, excuse my naivete.
I said I'd call on Ian and then I'm going to see who else we have, and we'll see how many questions we can get to today. But Ian, do you want to speak? Are you there?
Hey, Tim, Ian Tafoya here. I want to just follow up too on some of these unhoused issues, in particular, expand upon a little bit of what we just heard from Loretta. That was my comment. It's my understanding through records from the city that they've approved more than 28,000 temporary sites for businesses, which I think is great. And when I hear that that program costs $1 million and we have mutual aid groups that are out providing water and trash services to the people instead of the city, and then using that as the opportunity for the sweeps, again, spending us more money. You know, I'm really glad to hear that you're willing to bring Dottie to the table here. I think we need to hear from the director, Ulyss. I think we need to hear from Charlotte Pitt. You know, my group, Headwaters Protectors, has been serving the homeless. We went down to one of the sweeps 7 days later. There were open needles and 2,000 pounds of trash left there by Public Works for this sweep. The justification seems really lost for us. And I want to remind everyone that the 420 Festival lost $1 million contract in Civic Center Park for multiple years because bags of trash were cut open and left out, not needles for 7 days. There's a lot of answers we need, Tim, and we need your help in getting these answers, because this has been a multi-level effort between Denver Parks and Denver Public Health and Environment and Doty, and we need you all to the table. We talked with Derek Akubo with Human Rights and Community Partnerships. He committed to trying to get a meeting with the cabinet level members, and we just hope that we can have your support too, Tim.
You bet. That is my commitment to you, to bring those subject matter experts, do a joint presentation Q&A where you can talk to and hear from those folks. And I think we all have the same outcome in mind and in our hearts and souls. I sure do. One of the things, and I do not mean for this to sound like we're just trying to defend folks, but we weren't ready for COVID. And when it came on and these things that are happening as a result of it, we're really doing our level best to react, to be able to respond. But we're not performing appropriately. We're missing the ball. And so I want to make sure that we can come and have honest discussions with the folks that are handling this, the folks that have the intelligence on the issues and what we've learned and what we're going to be doing, so we can give you some honest answers. And that's been my 40 some years of work in government. This is how I've worked, and this is how I expect Dottie to move forward.
We had one person who said, thank you for your honesty right now. I'm going to go to Jesse Paris. Can you unmute? And hi.
Yes, I'm Jesse Parrish. I'm representing for Denver Homicide Out Loud, and I am going to be the next mayor of Denver in 2023. My constituents would like to know, how much are the sweeps costing taxpayers in the city? We are not getting straight answers. You keep calling these cleanups. These are not cleanups. These are sweeps. Call them what they are. They are sweeps. They are displacing whole communities. and you're sweeping people like trash. These cleanups were happening before COVID, so to hear that you're using COVID as an excuse for these so-called cleanups is not acceptable. These are sweeps. They were occurring before COVID. We had a crisis before COVID. And to see that the city continues to use COVID as the excuse for why they're sweeping whole communities like trash is very unacceptable. So if somebody could please answer that question, Tim, or anybody else from Dottie that's on this call, if you could please answer that question, how much are the sweeps costing taxpayers? Each one of these sweeps, Councilwoman Candy C. DeBaca said at a previous meeting it costs at least $10,000 for each sweep. So if you could please give us a clarification on how much these sweeps are costing taxpayer dollars, we would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, and I don't have the answer to that question. I don't think I got anybody here that does. I believe that that question could possibly be answered by the chief on Monday. Council has good access to that information as well. We will get that answer for you for when we do our bigger presentation, but let's see if we can get something that might be able to be addressed on Monday.
All right, David, I think you're next. David? David Hagan, can you unmute?
Hi, sorry about that.
Yes.
Can you come back to me next? Can you do me next, please? I'm sorry.
Okay, let me know. Does anyone else have a question? I see one other hand. Does anyone else have a question or any other issues that were presented today? And just to let you know that we will post, I think, were those able to go through, Maggie? We'll post the slides on our website, okay? And so you'll be able to get those there, and those will be attached to hopefully the minutes next month. And I see, let me see the next person.
I'm ready now, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Have you all read the research paper that From Allies to Abolitionists put out yet? I'm just curious if you've had a chance to go over that.
Is that the link that you sent to me that I posted on?
I sent 2 links.
Okay, I
It's
posted
the second link I sent.
Chat for everyone. So Tim, that was in the chat.
Okay.
So please go over that. That's one thing I'd like to ask you to do.
David, if you could, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch. You said the research paper for abolitionists or?
It's from a group called From Allies to Abolitionists. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did. I'm just writing it down. I have not read it myself. I will before the end of the day.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, Miles, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tim, for the presentation. And considering what's happening now in the city, my comments are more about procedures and what the department's going to do. And we're almost in an emergency situation right now with the city and other things. But getting back to procedures, just talking about how you engage the neighborhood, I'd almost like you to just do something on that to talk about it, because in the past we've had I'm from Congress Park, and we've had difficulty trying to get a hold of transportation people. And the department head at the time was actually saying, I'm protecting my people. You have to ask all your questions through me. I will not give out their information, nor will they answer questions directly to you. So it's good to hear what you're saying. I think that will be helpful, and I think that's a great goal. But I was just wondering, I have a few questions of this. As you do these digital divide, or as you do these digital engagements and you've had a lot of good participation, what about the people that don't have access to that? Because with libraries closed and all these other things happening, how will you make sure that that engagement is reaching all people? And I was also on the steering committee for East Central Area Plan, and with the city, they would just decide to answer things or just decide not to answer things. And I was wondering, do you have any requirement that you do engagement with the neighborhoods or with citizens? And if so, or if not, just let us know. But what are your metrics for saying something was successful? We've had situations where you've closed streets to traffic because of COVID, and it's to allow people to move around. But the question there is, the neighbors weren't informed, nor were the RNOs informed. You just did it. And to me, that's concerning, and that's not a way to work with people to talk about these new possible modes of transportation. And it's unfortunate, but Dottie in the past has just done things, and there's been no recourse, and it just happens, and then people respond at the very end. And I would also like to say, with all the different projects going on, and it sounds like you said $2 billion will be spent, it would be great if you could somehow, within some of that funding, set up point people for the neighborhoods that they can contact about to get more information and clearinghouses of what is happening and what the traffic implications or these types of construction projects will do. I think that would be more helpful, because there's a lot of things going on and it's just impossible to track everything. So I think a lot can be done, because a lot of money is going to be invested, that the engagement piece is going to be very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a quick response, because you've made some great points, Miles. You probably saw my face when you said one of our supervisors said he's protecting his people, he or she, I don't know. And that everything goes through that individual, and his folks can't talk to you. That is not an acceptable answer in the very least from my team. In the screen, you're going to have my email address. We will send out another place where someone on my team takes all the incoming requests and questions and then responds to those. I will make sure that everybody has those, because we owe you an understanding about what we're doing. Now, as it relates to your last question about team members, I will also send out a list of my team. I've got people dedicated in Northeast, Northwest Denver, Southwest Denver, and Southeast Denver as quadrants to address the concerns that we've got, or all the projects to the questions that you would have. We then have similar individuals who work in the planning and design team assigned to those quadrants as well. Now, their focus, as it should be, is to get projects completed and done. So our team's role is to hear your concerns, questions, get responses, and put you together with the right people and facilitate that. So I will get who my team is in those areas, so you'll know who we've got to work with and who are out there. Let me see, you had, the digital engagement. Citywide, roughly 67% of our residents have computers. 92% have smartphones. Others don't have access in any ways. We've tried to really focus on access through smartphones, because that's the largest percentage of the population. To your point, be able to use public facilities, which has been very difficult because they've been closed, and then doing both direct mail and leafleting, much of which has been constrained because our budgets are cut. We just, again, with the $250 million revenue loss, we don't have the money to do those. but we're trying to find whatever tools we can use to be able to reach everyone, especially in the pandemic. I think that captures the immediate questions that you had.
Okay, let me go, next person that I was gonna go to, sorry, let me go back and look who that was. Travis, do you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to thank the city for doing this, conducting this presentation and the efforts to reach out to neighborhoods. I've been seeing some of the chat feed, and I think it's important for us to maintain civility and then also be respectful of one another. And I also want to encourage all of us as neighborhood reps, delegates, and in my case, heads of respective RNOs to be a little bit more respectful of the city. I think this accusatory tone that we take from time to time with respect to lack of neighborhood engagement and that it's with malintent is sort of a tired argument. And I think we need to just be a little bit more civil. And let's commit to that in 2021 and hit reset on how we typically engage with the city. Now, we can have disagreements with respect to the merits of public policy that's coming out of the city, out of RNOs, et cetera. And I think that that's a reasonable thing to do. But the accusatory nature and assumption of guilt and malintent is tired. And I think on this January 9th, 2021, on the heels of the week that we had, I think it's important for us to hit reset in terms of how we communicate.
Thank you very much, Travis. And I haven't got to see the feed, of course. I understand the frustrations, I do. And I appreciate if we can keep our focus on what are the issues, and let's attack the issues. And if we're not doing it well, let's work on what course adjustments we can make so that we do it right away. But I do appreciate it, and thank you very much for those comments.
Let me just say, I want to just say that people are very concerned, and I'm going to put it in phrases, and you know, I mean, there are people in that have been, you know, displaced, that are caught up in sweeps, that lose services, and so people are very angry. So we don't want to minimize that. We don't want to, but you know, here at INC, we want to make sure that we make sure that we know people are being heard too. And I appreciate that you're going to give us an email, a contact, so that we can at least send that so that people can comment. I want to make sure that we have people who, you know, again, we all want to be civil so that we can hear each other, right? Because it's harder for me to hear when I hear 10 people talking at me at one time. And I tell people this all the time because I'm a mediator. So it's like, if I hear 10 people, I can't hear you all, and I want to hear you. So we want to know that we hear you, and we know there's anger. We know that, right? So we want to make sure that you hear it, and you hear it so that you can take it in, and so that things can change. And I think that's part of what, you know, Travis is saying. I think that's part of what we all want to hear, is that we can all be heard, we can all deal with the issues, right? So Anna, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. My name is Anna Cornelius, representative from Denver Homeless Out Loud, and I live in the Congress Park neighborhood. Comments I'd like to address that were spoken earlier. First is that city access to the cost of the sweeps. My council member, Chris Hines, has requested that numerous times and has heard absolutely nothing back in response. And Councilwoman Candy Citabacca has also requested that information and gotten no response. My second comment is that it was stated that the city has a $250 million revenue loss and is unable to provide leaflets and communication to neighborhoods, and yet they're still able to traumatically displace residents 3 times a week. My question is, Denver Homeless Out Loud has attempted to provide porta potties and hand washing in order to comply with CDC guidelines during a pandemic. And we've had representatives from Dottie actually removing our porta potties and canceling our contracts. And I'd like to know when Dottie is going to stop interfering with community groups that are actually trying to look for solutions during a pandemic to keep all of our residents safe.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Anna. I don't know about the hand washing porta potties timing, what's done. So that will be something that we'll address and get answers for you on, and certainly talk about in greater detail in the larger presentation that we do. Thank you for doing the outreach that you did to get resources to do that. Again, that's part of what I'm working on personally, or grants to provide support for these kinds of things where we don't have money. And I'm going after every grant, every pot of money that we've got to help provide services that are being impacted by lack of budget and other things. This is something, the first time I've heard about this, and again, I'm not the right person to answer this question, but let's bring in the subject matter experts that can.
I have one other question. The foundation of increased development density for Denver was to center on robust transit network. And this person may have missed it, but can you explain the transit dollars and what progress is being made?
I don't have an answer for that, but I can get it. Can you give me the name again? The transit network that you referred to?
Christine, do you want to respond to this?
Sure. I was just asking, I didn't think I heard it in the presentation, and it was to be a major part of Blueprint Denver and the comp plan, and it seems missing. I was just asking about it, but it seems other issues have been the focus. I just was surprised to see it omitted from your presentation. I'm saying, all I'm saying is that it was supposed to be that the basis of everything we did starting in 2002 regarding density, and then again in the new blueprint, and it's not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. So you referred to Blueprint Denver.
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay. We can talk about it later.
Yeah. Let me bring that into the other presentation. I didn't omit it by design. I frankly just didn't know about that particular segment, and there's a lot that I'm missing, unfortunately, because there's so much that we do, but I'll definitely bring that back.
I'm going to take 2 more comments and that's it, because we have to get on to our other issues. And I feel like, we'll dive more deeper into this at our next meeting, because I think we all seem to want to hear more. And, I think it was Shannon. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just want to first say that I hear the calls for civility, but when we are putting tremendous trauma on our entire communities, and most especially our most vulnerable, this is the result. And so if you're feeling some pangs, right, that might be your white fragility or your white supremacy coming forward. And if you are concerned about what happened at our nation's capital on Wednesday, then I implore you to please use your sphere of influence in this circle to do something for those who are unhoused. With all due respect, Tim, I'm hearing a lot of deflection from you about the role of Dottie in these sweeps. We have gone to the DDPHE meeting, and Bob McDonald has directly told us that DDPHE is not involved, that it is Dottie that is the one that is conducting these sweeps. We have done the CORAs. We have seen that it is Dottie that is involved. So I would very much like your email. I would like to send you the report that we have done. I would very much like to follow up with you about a follow-up presentation, and specifically to your response to Jesse that you can provide data about the cost of these sweeps. So thank you very much for allowing me to have comment. I realize it is not in the form of a question, but the primary point of my question is just that we have your contact information so that we may follow up. Thank you.
Okay, and the deck will be sent. I haven't sent it because we were able to get into it. I'll send it after this call, and it's got all my contact information, so you'll be able to reach out to me. And I would very much appreciate having a conversation, you and others, about what you would like to see and address in the larger presentation for those that are experiencing homelessness.
Great, thank you very much. We appreciate that, and I think we'll have a lot of participation. We have to go on to the next part of our meeting. I'm so sorry, folks, and I know a lot of you want to comment, but hopefully you can participate at the next one. Tess, you're the last one. Can you chime in? And I know you have been waiting patiently.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to see if, Tim, we could get some answers around where the bathrooms have gone around the city. Because, I've gone to a few recently that I found online through the city website. And it recommended that I go there for public restrooms. And all three of them were either without soap and water. Some of them had paper towels, or just had soap, but no water or paper towels. So during a pandemic and during a time when we have such a housing crisis and people living on the streets, and we want, things to remain clean and safe for everybody, and especially during winter, and, women need a bathroom, just basic, so, human needs should be met. And in a city as wealthy as Denver, I think that we should most certainly be able to find it in some budget somewhere to provide that. So can we just really look into that deeply and figure out where all the bathrooms have gone? Because there's a whole map of them on the city website, and they're not functioning. So it's not useful.
Okay, it's a very reasonable request. Let me dig into that, find out what the answer is.
Thank you.
All right. For those of you who've joined us today and you don't want to stay for the rest of our meeting, feel free to stay. We'd love to have you. We'd like to have your participation, and we appreciate you sharing and asking questions today. Tim, thank you for joining us. We look forward to working with you and having another meeting and having everyone come and ask questions. And hopefully, in the interim, before you present again, we can have some questions answered, right? And we know, and maybe some people will be able to, reach out to you, and you can work together to hopefully work on some of the issues. So thank you again. We're going to go on to the next segment of our meeting today. And we're going to go ahead and go on to our committee reports and finance reports. I have first on the agenda is the awards. And so Jane, if you want to talk about that, because that's coming up, and we need to get moving on that, right? So thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, thanks, Tim, for being with us this morning. I look forward to the rest of our discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
One thing before you go, Tim, is Emily is here. Does she want to add anything? Emily, are you on today? Emily Zeke? Okay, I guess not. I didn't know if she wanted to add anything, but go ahead, Jane. Sorry about that.
Thank you all
That's
so
just
much.
fine. We will have an awards ceremony this year. It won't be quite the same as we've had in the past, with a big evening event and a silent auction and speakers, but we will honor people from neighborhoods who have done something outstanding this year, especially this year of COVID. It will be during our March meeting on March 13th, that Saturday morning. We'll start at 10 o'clock. My team of Sally Kurtzman, Mary Jane and Rudy and Ann White have all been really responsive in helping get information out and applications in. So far, we have 2 Youth Civic Engagement Awards applications in. We have 3 Neighborhood Star nomination in. And this is where I want to reach out to all of you to realize that if there's been somebody in your neighborhood who has done something that is worthy of recognition, they could earn the Neighborhood Star for 2021. So if you have a person that you'd like to recognize, get in touch with me through the INC website. I'm on the board and you can reach out to me there. We've been very, very happy to have wonderful sponsorship back again this year. It's Visit Denver, Denver Health, Denver Water, Excel, the City of Denver, and DIA. They've all been coming back as sponsors so that we can do the work in the community that we've done to help neighborhoods in need. And one final thing that I can announce is that James Mejia has agreed to be our MC for the day. So plan on being with us on March 13th after the election of officers at 9, and we will have an awards ceremony at 10.
All right, I muted. And also, Jane, did you have anything to say? We have youth awards, right? And did you want to comment on that too?
If anyone has information about a youth group who during this past year has had a project where they have worked in the community and done some kind of civic activity that will benefit their neighborhood, that's another award that we're giving. And Councilwoman Torres has made an additional donation to that. So we will be able to honor 4 different groups. We only have 2 applications now, so that if you know of a youth group that has done something in the community, again, get in touch with me through the INC website. Thank you.
All right, great. Maggie, do you want to go ahead and talk about parks?
Sure. We've been not meeting lately, as a lot of other people have. However, we're going to be meeting virtually February 16th and starting at 6:00 p.m. Our anticipated program is to discuss parks that have been just designated. City Council has finalized designation of 6 parks, those being Cherry Creek Trail, City Park Golf Course, First Creek Park, First Creek Trail, Martinez Park, Lakewood Gulch Edition, and an unnamed park at West Stanford and South Balsam Way. The total is about 100 acres, most of which is competing with the City Park Golf Course. You may find that strange that designation is happening with City Park Golf Course, but when they were doing the excavations and the redo of the drainage in City Park, they discovered that a significant amount of parkland, or golf course land, was not designated, so they had to go back and do that. That's it for my report. If any of you want to contact me, parksandrecs@denverinc.org.
All right, great, thank you. Next up, we have transportation. Joel, do you want to chime in? Joel?
You everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, well, we have our meeting coming up this coming Thursday, the 14th. We have 4 topics lined up. We're happy to welcome Deborah Johnson, the General Manager and Chief Executive Officer of RTD. She's only been in RTD for a couple months, so this will just be getting to know you. I'm sure we'll hear about how RTD is doing with the pandemic, very difficult times financially, as well as longer term planning. As you know, they put the Reimagine RTD effort on hold to focus on pandemic response. But what are her thoughts on looking forward? We're also kicking off the year with hearing from Ulyss Cleckley. I think this is at least the 3rd year he's been doing this. He's been doing this every year, giving a transportation work plan for the year to INC at the beginning of the year since he came to the city. Next, we'll hear from Paul Cashman. As you may know, the auditor recently completed an audit of the sidewalk repair program, and it was bad. The sidewalk repair program is this attempt to say, well, we still have this kind of broken system that INC has identified as a broken system for many, many years of hoping that every property owner takes care of their sidewalks adjacent to their property. But then they were going to add a 10-year rolling process of doing intensive audits and city remediation and charging people back for that. And essentially that's a failure. Although the auditor is far too polite to use words like failure, he did point out that it has no goals. Whatever goals it has, it's not meeting. And the people involved in it are actually not working on it anymore. So Paul Cashman, as one of the council members very interested in sidewalks, is going to have an informal discussion with us. He has nothing to announce. And we're going to be having a dialogue about, is now the time to really fix how we maintain and manage sidewalks in Denver. Finally, we'll get an overview of the upcoming legislative session at the state. From the point of view of transportation advocacy, we're going to hear from Pete Van Heuven from Bicycle Colorado. And one of her roles there is to track mobility topics at the state. And so this is a really good time to look at what's upcoming and what advocates are hoping for that would be relevant to us here in Denver. So that'll be a good session. Transportation Committee this coming Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm glad we're still able to do things via Zoom. Okay, Zoning and Planning Committee. Ian, Christine, I think you're still there, Ian and Christine.
Yeah, Christine, you want to go first?
Sure. Ian and I kind of dropped the ball. We did not have a December meeting, and I know we had said we would, but it was the day after Christmas. It's a couple of issues coming up. One is short-term rentals. I don't have all the details, but we're going to have a meeting to cover them. Some of the operator business interests have proposed removing the requirement that the owner reside on site. So I'm not sure where that is. I apologize, but we will find out. Then on the text amendment number 8, the group living, which is the one we've spent a lot of time on this last year, a couple of things. First of all, we need to recognize that INC was really instrumental in getting the word out to RNOs on this and then RNOs got the word out to the community. It wasn't through CPD that this first became known. INC was instrumental in asking questions last spring, and then we were instrumental in getting City Council to actually break it up and deal with it over 2 months, which required enormous brain effort and time. And I'm very appreciative that Council was willing to do that. And that's largely because of our work that happened. So there are changes, and we're going to have a presentation in January just to bring you up to date. Just so you know, there are no changes regarding the number of people in an extended family who can live together. That's always been unlimited, and that'll stay. There is a change on how many unrelated or mix of related, unrelated adults can live together. There are many changes on the residential care portion, which we'll explain, but having, as a lawyer and having read the ordinance as it's drafted, I can vouch it is not clear. There are a lot of inconsistencies which need to be addressed before this goes through. And then a couple of things that are also still hanging out there. One is the concern raised by neighborhoods everywhere, from Athmar Park all the way to Montbello, regarding the complaint system and enforcement. And I know there are promises around that, but nothing is in this ordinance. And then the Chapter 59 issue is huge. There are 2 zoning codes. There are still 2 zoning codes. The auditor did a report on that in 2015. CPD dropped the ball for 10 years on that, and now say that they will address it after this goes through. And there's a real question about whether residents like myself who are in Chapter 59 areas and have no idea how we're going to be rezoned, how can we even be in favor or opposed to a text amendment that doesn't apply to us until we're brought into the new code. So all those will be addressed at a meeting in January, and we hope to see you there. We will probably have Andrew Webb give an abbreviated report, not a long one, because we know there are a ton of questions. So if you have questions ahead of time, write to Ian and I by zoningplanning@denverinc.org, and I hope to see you there. Okay, Ian.
Hi, everyone. Ian Thomas Safoya, co-chair of Zoning and Planning with Christine. Just want to make sure you all mark your calendars. The 23rd of January is actually our scheduled meeting. I also want to just let you know that there is a marijuana, several updates to different parts of the marijuana code that are moving through. They have a plan to track these on to passing them in Q1 and getting to implementation by Q3 this year. I was first notified about it December 21st, which from a community outreach perspective right before the holidays isn't ideal. I can say that. And as you read through, they're saying they actually have comments that are due, which they extended to January 15th, which is less than 30 days. And so I'm already in the works of drafting a message here to at least extend this a little bit further. It just seems so unreasonable to me to not even grant people 30 days with the holidays included. And I think it's a reasonable request to get people's understanding here. I had a chance, there is a presentation, it's about 47 pages long or PowerPoints long online. And there was a presentation that was given in person. I'm actually writing to see if I can get that video so we can get the video to you and you can see the questions in it. Three of the main components, just so you have a high level understanding. One is about social equity. And you know, the way when the marijuana laws were passed and we implemented them, I actually worked for Denver City Council and staffed that committee. And we set up a structure that in a lot of ways excluded people of color from being owners. And we've seen the gross disparities of the amount of people of color own licenses. I can only think of one Black-owned business. I don't know any Latino-owned businesses. And this isn't just in Denver, this is around Colorado. And so they set together to make a task force that would take a look at social equity and trying to protect, one, the 5 neighborhoods that have had the most amount of licenses put into them, to provide opportunities for people to enter into the market. If this were to pass, it would provide 6 years exclusivity to people of color for social equity licenses. And the reasoning, the rationale there is the other industry people had about 6 years to establish themselves in the business and they want to balance that out. It would take away the lottery and the cap. Many of the same distances all stay in the same place. I actually designed the map for as the bird fly 1,000 foot as the crow flies from Paul Lopez to protect businesses and schools in the past. There's also an ordinance here around delivery and being able to deliver. For the first few years, it would be solely operators of delivery companies. And then in 2024, you'd get to the place where businesses could have their own delivery. Much like we have marijuana like alcohol, which is what Amendment 64 was like, you can have alcohol delivered to your house, similar system with scanners alike from the presentation I saw. And then the last part is about locations where you can consume. Consumptions, facilities. You know, we passed a law to create social consumption. We know that because of the rules and regulations that it actually didn't work. We haven't seen the will of the voters be done, and so that's what this change here is for. So it would repeal and replace a consumption ordinance here. I did receive some emails from some people I want to acknowledge, people having concerns about like the tour buses with mobile marijuana consumption, with the driver driving and everyone else in the back smoking. So, you know, there are definitely some questions here. I think the number one thing you can do, and we'll forward this to you, is to go online, read this presentation yourself. You can submit a written comment. You can submit a written comment asking for an extension, and that's my intention.
Well, Ian, how about instead we make a motion right now to ask for an extension so we can cover this at the February delegate meeting? And we can
I guess I'm open to that.
Okay, so I would move that INC's delegates at its January 9th meeting today ask Excise and License to postpone the to extend the comment period relating to, and we need the name of the bill, or the name of the proposal, to February 20th after the INC delegate meeting, February 13th, if I'm correct.
It's actually it's a series of marijuana ordinances. I don't know how you want to fit that in there, but we could just request, go ahead.
Extend the deadline for comments for the series of marijuana proposals that are on the table at this time.
I'll second that. Oh wait, I can't because I'm not a delegate.
Trupti, do you want to
I'll
second?
second. I'm seconding.
Zoe seconding? Okay, thanks. Zoe seconds. Do we have any discussion? I mean, it sounds like this is a quick turnaround, and it sounds like a few people, I see a few hot heads nodding that you want some time to review this, because I just heard about it the other day. I know some of us on executive committee, I know Jane Lorimer had watched the presentation, but I haven't seen it yet. So it sounds like most of us don't know all the details. So I don't know if there's a discussion right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and then just call the question then. Do we want to go ahead and do a vote?
By acclamation.
By acclamation, you want to do it by acclamation? Okay. Do we have, I guess what I'll just call is, delegates, all those in favor, either raise your hand and if you're on video, we can see your hand, or put your hand up. So that's what I would appreciate, one or the other, or click on your hand up, okay? So, and we'll try and get a count here, okay? Okay, I have 18.
And George Mail on video, on audio.
Okay, thanks, George. So 19. Sally Kurtzman, are you a delegate? I added you. Sally, are you a delegate?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Because I just didn't see the D by you, and I want to make sure I got everybody with Ds. And James
Resniak, yep, delegate from Sunnyside.
Yeah, you're a delegate. I know you are.
Yep.
Okay, so we have 1920. I'll include myself, and then any opposed. Go ahead and put your hands down, and we'll go ahead and everybody get your hands down first, okay? If you can do that, that would help. And I'm kind of helping you lower your hands if you haven't already. Okay, anybody opposed to this? Can't imagine you have any, but I think we got everybody. Okay, I think that proclamation passes, so we'll go ahead.
Loretta, we'll work with you to send a letter to
great.
excise and license. We'll draft it for you and we'll get it over to you to take a look at.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. We'll hope to see you on the 23rd.
And actually, we're adding 3 more because Maggie can't because she's delegate. So I'm just letting you know I have 23, 24, 25.
And we may have an extra meeting because we have so much to cover. So look for that.
Christine wants to have an extra meeting. Everyone, I hope you're ready for it.
Okay, and then we have one abstention in that. Okay. All right. Next issue, we want to address a couple of issues that well, let's go to membership first. And Trupti, and Jane, you might want to chime in, but Trupti, do you want to talk about membership? And then we'll go to some other issues regarding SWIC and Treasury report, okay? But go ahead, Trupti. I mean, you want to remind delegates. Oh, you're on mute.
I can be real quick. we've got about 17 as of today of the 67 renewals that were 2020 members. So I'm going to be reaching out to the folks who haven't, just as a reminder. That's kind of the next step here for me. And then I will be sending out a letter to all RNOs that have never, or at least in the last few years, have not been a member. So, and again, if you're not a member by the end of February, you won't be able to vote for the board. That happens in March. And Jane, I do have a question because I'm new and I'm not sure how we've handled this in the past. So as of right now, if folks have, RNOs have not renewed by the end of December, does that mean everyone who thinks they're a delegate but their RNO has not renewed is not, a delegate as of this moment, unless they renewed? So I think there's just a disconnect between people who come as delegates or think they're delegates and, whether they're clear, whether their RNO is renewed. So Jane, how would you handle that for January, February? If they're not renewed by 12/31, are they not members today?
They're a member and a delegate until the end of February. Some organizations don't meet very regularly. They have trouble getting in touch with their treasurer. So we give them the benefit of the doubt that membership goes until the deadline of the end of February. But at the end of February, then they're no longer a delegate if they haven't renewed.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we're all good for today as far as the folks who had put D down. Thank you. So that's the only thing. Make sure if you're, if you're not a delegate or you think you're a delegate, reach out to me. I can verify, I can update the records. That's one of the challenges we do have, is that folks show up here, but they may not be a delegate, or they're a proxy, and our bylaws don't actually allow proxies. If you're the identified delegate, you get the vote, you don't get a proxy. Anybody can show up. So that's another thing that, I've been noticing over the last couple of months is folks who are showing up as an alternate, but they're not real, delegates. So something on our end to double check, but also on your end, please let us know ahead of time if you're showing up as, as an alternate for someone who couldn't make it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that just means everybody renew, talk to your RNO, make sure, you're up. We're still working, and I want to thank Trupti again for her work on trying to get other RNOs involved. We've had meetings with Paul Cashman regarding you all know about working on the RNO update, the RNO ordinance update. And so we had a meeting with Paul Cashman this week. Michael, I don't know if you want to chime in, Michael Henry, but, working on, we know RNOs need some funding, need some assistance, and some RNOs don't have, an organized group. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to say anything about that, just an update.
Well, if I could very quickly, most of you will recall that at the December delegates meeting, we had a very long discussion about what the recommendations for the INC RNO committee were. The committee had a Zoom call with Councilman Cashman just a few days ago, and he wanted to reassure everybody that one of his purposes in the effort that City Council is undertaking is to figure how can the city better support RNOs. And he suggested that some of them think that the city needs an office to support RNOs. And he said that they had been recently in contact with Los Angeles, and they actually have an office of 30 people, the neighborhood support office. And he also wants to think about how to do a better job of citizen engagement. And I have to tell you, when I was listening to Tim Sandos this morning, I kept being confused as to why different departments should have different processes and different charts about citizen engagement. And I think that the council is interested in wanting to find a better way for the whole city. And finally, he assured us that as the council committee presses ahead with this during 2021, and probably the first committee meeting will be in the next month or two, that INC will be at the table. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. The next issue that we have is, let me go back to my agenda. The next issue that I want to address, and Greg, I'm hoping that you will chime in, and I think Larry is still on, but for those of you who know, we have an office, although it's rarely used right now. I know Jane went over and did some cleanup over there. Thank you very much. But we have an office where we have, you know, items stored for our meetings when we have in-person meeting. And we also have some other things stored there for us and some of our equipment, et cetera. But we pay for an office space in SWIC. The city is, you know, again, told them that, you know, they're gonna renegotiate their space, and so there's a whole bunch of things going on. So I don't know if we want to just brief update from Greg, Larry, and so Greg, I know you're working with Larry on maybe a resolution. So I don't know if we want to talk about that right now. But maybe just a quick update, Larry. And I did send out some information to delegates about that. So I think you know just kind of a basis. So just wanted to let you know.
Sure, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate the opportunity to tell you what's happening. So yeah, we've been given notice that we have to leave by the end of this year on December 31st. We're still not clear on why that is. There's been really no transparency, and we've never been told we've done anything wrong. We've been in the neighborhood and serving people for 33 years. It's almost like we're being punished for being successful. So what we are being told is that there will be a community outreach process to decide what will go into the Westwood Community Center, that maybe there's something better than what we're doing. We will have an opportunity to participate in the process. However, the process will not be completed before we have to leave. And therefore, we will be able to, there'll be an RFP, request for proposals, that'll be issued after we leave, upon which we can bid to come back, which makes very little sense to us or anybody else. So what we're trying to do is convince council to ask the administration, the Hancock administration, to let us stay during that process to participate in a fair and open process that would determine the highest and best use for the Westwood Community Center. If it's decided that we can stay, that would be fine. And if it's decided that we can't, we would like a reasonable period of time to relocate, not to have to move out and then be told that we can move back in. So that's the situation at this point.
All right, I think we would all appreciate if you keep us up to date on what's going on. Greg, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Larry has been working on a draft resolution that will
we'll be talking about on Monday evening's board meeting. And hopefully we will be getting that out to delegates so that we can discuss it at the February delegate meeting.
Okay.
I would just add that we did have to sign a lease in order to be protected, so that they could have asked us to leave with 30 days notice. So we did sign a lease that goes to the end of the year. That's going before the Council Finance and Governance Committee on Tuesday. I don't know the exact time. I think it's at 1:30. So we're hoping we'll be able to either present or testify at that meeting. We've made a request to do so. And then the lease itself will go before council. And we'll hopefully be able to talk to council. Basically, this is a decision that rests entirely with the real estate division within the Hancock administration. And city council doesn't have any direct authority, but we're asking council to use its moral suasion and bully pulpit to try to convince Mayor Hancock that SWIC is a vital part of the Southwest Denver community and has been for so many years, and that the people we serve, especially the senior citizens that we serve, deserve better than to have us evicted with no transparency or no apparent reason.
Okay, thank you so much, Larry. And so what we'll do is we'll have this discussion at the executive committee on Monday and look forward to hearing more in February. Right now, I don't know that we have any other issues. I don't know, Greg, if you wanted to give a treasury report or if we can hold off on that.
Quickly, on December 31st, 2019, we had $50,173.13 in cash and bank accounts. During 2020, we had $30,635.70 in income. This was from memberships and donations. A large part of the donations were for the annual dinner. Our expenses in 2020 totaled $16,069.07 for the annual dinner, $10,388.42 for operating expenses, and then charitable works in totaled $26,250, and this included the $25,000 in donations that we made during 2020 for COVID relief. So total expenses in 2020 were $52,707.49. So we ended the year with $28,101.34 in cash and bank accounts. For 2021, we will be establishing a Denver INC Community Fund for charitable works, and that will be focused on neighborhoods, and we'll be establishing a separate bank account so that we separate this money from our operating expenses. And our final 21 budget will be voted on by the board on Monday. Thank you.
All right.
Loretta, I think Perry has an announcement from Climate and Sustainability.
Did I not put it on there? And I didn't. I don't think so. Perry, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem. I was didn't know whether to chime in or not.
No, you're good. Chime in.
Great, thanks. Climate sustainability was quiet over the holidays, but we continue to work to try to create a committee that is reflective of our city, meaning representation of Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQ, and better geographic representation. We have 8 members so far who are mostly the better served communities in the heart of Denver, and mostly white women, to be honest. So we're working really hard. I've talked to Groundwork. I'm going to speak with somebody this coming week from the Indigenous Youth Organization. We've talked to the city to see if they can help give us names of people that they're encountering as they make the same efforts in their new climate office. So that's what we're doing. We have a committee meeting scheduled for January 21st at 1 o'clock. It'll be a Zoom meeting. Oh, I should say, anybody who is on this call who are delegates from neighborhoods who are frontline communities, we would love to reach into your neighborhoods and find people for our committee. It's really important. Half of the money spent with the new climate protection fund has to go into these frontline communities, and we want the voices from those frontline communities on our committee. So we have our big summit or climate discussion on the books for April 10th delegate meeting. We had a great meeting with the program director of the Sustainable Neighborhoods program yesterday, along with Elizabeth Babcock, who's sort of the original climate gangster in the Environment Agency, and now she's transferred over to the new office. And they're helping us refine the content based on the progress that they will have made by that time, as well as to identify good speakers and a good meeting. So that was a good session, and we're really excited about the April 10th meeting. The update from the city right now is that they're in a lot. It's like the snake swallowing the mouse. They've got this new fund. They have a new office. They are doing, in addition to the work that they've been doing for a long time, they have, I think, an increase of staff so far of 1. So they're trying to create all these changes. It's inner work. We're not seeing much outward work yet. As everyone knows here, because you've been watching the city for a long time, it takes a long time to spend money and to hire people and to shift organizations. So they'll keep us updated as they move, and this meeting is going to be an important opportunity for that. I think that's it. Jane, would you? Oh, here's the other thing. They are continuing to do all the same work that they've been doing. So for example, I think it was earlier this week, they had a 2.5 meeting of a new task force called the Energized Denver Task Force. And we'll find out more about that, because that will affect the neighborhoods as they create incentives and strategies for moving Denver into a more fossil fuel free, renewable energy based community. It'll have impacts on zoning codes and building codes and all of that. So Jane, would you add anything?
Well, I want to go back to what Mike Henry said, and the fact that, and from what we heard from Tim Sandoz earlier, and things that all the committees have referred to, is communication with the city is really so essential for all of these things that we're working on right now. And to have it so that it's sort of standard through all the different agencies would really be beneficial. And it would give us a lot more ways to communicate with them that would be more representative of who we are and the neighborhoods that we represent. So I think getting these discussions going better between the city and neighborhoods is imperative.
Great, thanks. Thanks for your work. Everybody, thanks for your work. And I know it's been a hard year and it's been an incredibly crazy week and hard week for all of us.
Loretta, I'm sorry. I know what you're, I just got a request from Joel to repeat the committee meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
It's January 21st at 1 o'clock.
Okay, January 21st over Zoom and
sorry to interrupt your nice wrap up.
Okay. And people should be in contact with you to get the Zoom link?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Just in closing, I don't know if anybody has anything else that's, pressing matter or news you want to relay. Please think of members and residents who you think would be great for nominations. Get that to Jane because we want to go ahead and have that, and especially youth. And we'll work on that and seeing you. You'll have more information regarding the election, and we'll work with Tim to have another meeting because I think we all want to know and hopefully can have some questions answered. But I just want to say again, I appreciate everybody being here and spending your entire morning on a Saturday morning, on a snowy day. But I appreciate seeing you all. Is there anything else from anyone? And not seeing anything, can I have a motion to adjourn? I got that from Trudy. I saw a hand raised. We have a second. Okay, great, Jane. All right, we'll go ahead and close the meeting, but thank you so much for participating today. And hopefully we all learned something and hopefully we can move forward with things, right? Great, thanks. Take care.